Hello, this is Marianne from the Wagon Quilt Company, and today we will be doing the tutorial for the 7th block in the Around the Corner Block of the Month by Wendy Williams. And this block is really a fun one. It's the ribbon that will go around two borders of the side of your quilt. You can see this right here on the side, and then down on the bottom is the ribbon border. And it's all made with half square triangles. And so I'm going to just show you a few tricks that might help you with making half square triangles. I know many of you feel proficient with doing it, but others might struggle a little bit. And there are a few things that might help you with making your half square triangles. So I'm going to begin. Some of my fabrics might be slightly different because I've picked some of them from my stash, but you'll have your background fabric, which is a light fabric, and then you'll have your bright colors. In the pattern done by Wendy Williams, she tells you to cut these squares at 3 7/8 inches, but I found that it is probably a little bit easier if you cut them right at 4 inches, and then you can trim your half square triangles up to the correct size after you've done that, after you've made them. So I've made both my background and all of my bright colors 4 inches square. The next thing you'll do is you'll take 2 of the background ones, and what I've done is kind of selected a light one and a dark one. You'll notice when she makes the ribbon border that it goes dark light, dark light, dark light, dark light, and that kind of gives you that ribbon feel to this border. And I have chosen like colors, you know, kind of a pink and a pink and a purple and a purple, and you don't have to do that, but she does suggest that you go dark light, dark light. So you'll need to make sure that the dark one's always on one side and the light one's on the next side, on the other side. See how they alternate. So this is part of one of the finished borders. The first thing I'm going to do is take 2 of the light colored background 4-inch squares, and with a friction pen, now you could use a pencil too and that would work just fine. The friction pen is nice because you mark it and then you sew it, and then when you press it, then the color goes away. And so the friction pen can be really handy. So I have a friction pen here that I'm going to mark with. And what you're going to do is mark this piece on the diagonal from point to point with your marker. And this is on the wrong side of the fabric, and you can see the line right here that goes diagonal from one edge to the other edge, one corner to the other corner. And I'm going to do that with 2 pieces of the background. And then I'm going to match it up with one of my colors. Maybe I'll do this purple one here right now to demonstrate. I have cut 2 of each color, and then I'll pick 2 of the backgrounds, and I'll put these right sides together with that line facing up. And I don't usually pin these. I can usually keep them straight as I'm putting them into the machine. You could if you're worried about them being too slick or moving. And then what I'm going to do with my sewing machine is sew a line 1/4 inch from my drawn line on this side and 1/4 inch from my drawn line on the other side also. So I'll do that right now. I like to sew these seams just a little bit smaller than 1/4 inch. And that gives me a little fudge room when I'm trimming up, just gives me a little bit of extra room. So make sure you're not making your seam too big, because then you may not have enough to trim off. So I'm going to sew on one side of that 1/4 inch from that drawn line on each of these. and then I'll turn it around and sew 1/4 of an inch on the other side of the line. One thing that some people find really helpful is called diagonal tape, and I have some right here. And it's just kind of a not too sticky tape that you can buy like this. And what you do with this tape to help when you're making half square triangles is you place a piece of the tape on your table that you're sewing on, or on, I've just had this plastic one right here that I've put on here so it's portable. But you put the tape so the red line, which is the middle line, is right directly in front of the needle, and then the 1/4 inch seam allowances are on either side of the needle. So I'll turn around my machine right here to show you. I've actually placed the tape right here, as you can see, and I've measured it from here to here so I make sure that it's equal distance. And I've put the tape to the end of my table right here. And the nice thing about this tape is some people really, really love it, because in actuality, you may not have to even draw that line across your piece if you're using this tape. What it does, it allows you to line up your piece. I can put the corner of this block right here, right on that red line. And if I keep it right on that red line the whole time I'm sewing it, then it's going to make a perfect diagonal across that piece of fabric. So you might try the diagonal tape. Some people really like it. It may eliminate the need actually to draw your lines on your fabric. Then what I'm going to do is, with my ruler and my rotary cutter, I'm going to cut these two pieces apart right on that drawn line. With each of those. And then I think it's really important that you press these. And I usually press them to the dark side, like most times we're told as a quilter. So I'm taking each of these 4 blocks that I've made, pressing them to the dark side. And I will end up with 4 half square triangles. Now you may notice, if you make your half square triangles this way, that they may not be just perfect. Sometimes they get a little skiwampus. And so most of us really like to trim these up and so they're perfectly square. And that really helps when you're piecing them together so you can be a lot more accurate. You can definitely use a ruler and just make them square that way, but there's a newer invention that a lot of us love to work with half square triangles, and this is called a block lock. And it's like a little ruler, except the difference is it has a little groove right here in the middle across it. And what you can do with these block lock rulers is you can lay your half square triangle down. These come in all different sizes. This is a 3.5 inch block, which will be the finished size of this half square triangle that I'm making today. You can use a bigger one, but you may have to turn your block over to make the cuts. With this one, and I'm using also this little cutter mat that rotates, it moves, and that kind of makes it easy so you can make all those cuts on there without moving your ruler. So with the block lock ruler, what you do is you put this little groove right on the edge of your seam. I'm going to turn it, And if you press your seam to one side, this block lock ruler will fit right into the groove of where the seam allowance is on your half square triangle. And you can see that the block lock is actually just a tiny bit smaller than my half square triangle. So what I'm going to do is put it right there on the press seam, and I am going to trim it with this block lock. I can do two sides, and then I'm going to turn it. And cut the third and the fourth side of my half square triangle. So when I'm finished, I have a very precise 3.5 inch square half square triangle. I'm going to do that with each of my half square triangles. Put this right there so it's locked right onto that seam, that diagonal seam. And then I'm going to trim each of these blocks up so they're just perfectly at 3.5 inches square. And you'll be amazed at how much a difference it makes when you start piecing these together, that they're just really precise. And by adding that extra amount to the squares that you cut originally, cut them 4 inches, it gives you enough space to do that trimming. So I'm going to do each of these. And one more. It takes a little bit more time to square things up, but I think in the long run you'll find that you save a lot of time by making sure these are really accurate. And it makes your points a lot better too. So now I have 4 very accurate half square triangles. The next thing you're going to do is start sewing these together to make the ribbon. And you'll have to watch your pattern, make sure that you're doing it accurately. But what you're doing is making one side dark and one side light, like I showed you before. So 2 of these half square triangles, I have to look at the ones I've already done or look at the picture and make sure I get them going the right way. So these 2 will be put together so they form that diagonal line. So I'll sew these 2 together with the 1/4 inch seam. I can get my threads going the right way. And it's nice when those are exactly the same size. So you can see how the 2 half square triangles form this half V. When I have the dark one and the light one done, then I'm going to sew the dark and the light one together so they form a V. And make sure you're getting the dark one on the left and the light one on the right. Now I've switched to the green ones that I've already made. I will match my seams in the middle so it forms that nice V. And then I can sew these 2 together. Press them. do them in units with the color. And then as I had them, each of these V's done, then I can add them to my border. And I just like to do it so I don't get two colors right next to each other, so I have a nice variety of colors. So I'll add this one to the end here, matching my seams. So I will add another color to my border. And when you get it all done and you put it on there, it does kind of look like a ribbon that's weaving in and out. This is really a fun one and it works up really quickly. I think you'll enjoy this. Maybe you'll have time to catch up on some of your other blocks that you've been working on with applique. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer any of your questions or help you in any way with your quilt. And I hope you'll join us next time for our Around the Corner block of the month. Thanks so much. Bye.